All right, and right here we have our starter wire. Let's see what happens.
How's it going? I'm Michael and this is Budget Builds. My dad and I bring rusty, crusty old cars back to life.
What is happening, Budget Builders, and welcome back to the channel. I'm sure you've noticed in the past few videos we no longer have that Beetle that we pulled the TDI from, and that's because I ripped all of the harness out of it. We ended up selling quite a few more parts, and including some of the dash stuff. What was left, I kind of took a Sawzall and a hammer and we ripped the entire harness out of that car. Not too much to show there. It was just kind of me looking like I was like a monkey going at bananas, just tearing that thing apart. But we got the harness completely out of there. A big mess of harness, and we're gonna get it stripped down, ready to put in this truck and see if we can get this thing to fire off. Now, I did send the ECU off to Malone. With around the holidays and everything, it's taken a little bit to get the ECU back, but we finally have it back. Let's get everything wrapped up and see if our work pays off.
All right, so here is the mess of wiring that you end up with once you're out of the car. So now what I'm doing, let's see. So right up here, it's right here where you're made. This actually plugs right in. This is your engine harness plug, that 14 pin plug right there. And right now what I'm doing, this is what you need out of this harness pretty much. And you go follow it all the way back to where it goes, and you pull each of those off. Now, most of them actually just come to these little splice joints. So all I did was strip it back with my razor blade and then peeled those apart. And then there was one that actually went to your fuse block here. And then there was four. There were four that actually go to your gauge cluster plugs, which I don't know that you'll even use. But, so basically that's your first step, to get that thing peeled out of there. Alright, so the next thing I grabbed here is this plug, which is our main power block. And so this is where all your main power comes in to power everything else, like your ECU, your pedal, and whatever other junk you need. So again, strip that back. A couple of these were in the little already spliced up to what we removed in the engine harness power. So all this is basically going to go to different power points, and we're going to either have 12 volt static or we're going to have 12 volt switched on. So yeah. So that entire thing we pulled out, we kept these two bits here. It's a start. There may be more we need to pull out of there, so I'm going to save it for now. But for the time being, we're going to go ahead and move to the ECU side of things. Alright, one more thing that you pull out of that mess is this right here, which is that blue, and this is actually your pedal. And so see, this goes straight to your pedal, and it's all connected in one loop other than this blue, which goes to a power block, and then these two guys, which these actually went down to the down to the intercooler, or whatever that sensor is, I guess to boost pressure or something. So just cut those there. Then you got one more piece to the puzzle. Okay, so here we are on my bedroom floor. Last night I continued working on this thing. I was actually wrapped up and then kept thinking about it, so kept trying to find stuff. I did find a couple documents online that actually address what wires reach, and that's where I was able to pinpoint what is what. So right here on your data connector, you have the two browns, which is a battery connector, and the only thing that you use is your your K line link right here. And so what I did was actually hook that up to that off of the orange plug, and then I'm pretty sure that's the only thing you use off of that orange plug. As far as the blue plug goes, I'm not sure. On the Beetle, it's got this MAP IAT on these two plugs. I'm not sure if you even use those. I'll have to figure that out as we go. The blue and yellow is a 12 volt switched on 10 amp, and then obviously the only other thing you have there is your pedal. Black, we don't use anything right now, and white, we don't use anything right now. That's like AC stuff and cruise control, which I'm not going to have hooked up just yet. It's something we're going to do in the near future, but it's just there. So that's why I have the plug, so we can hook what we need to up when it comes time. Now off of the brown, you have this yellow, or kind of a goldish and black, and that actually loops back to your 14 pin, and you hook both of those up to a switched on 10 amp fuse. Again, with this blue and yellow, I'll probably put it on the same fuse as that one. Switched on 10 amp. This is your starter wire, this black, or this red and black. Your main is a battery 12 volt, so a constant 12 volt. This purple and black also loops around to your 14 pin, and then you hook that up to a 10 amp fuse with a switched power. Oh. And obviously off of here is just your bottom side of your engine harness, so this goes down to your starter and everything. Just kidding, this is actually the top side of your engine harness. So this actually comes up. You have your coolant warmers, which I'm just going to leave that in line for the time being. That can do what it needs to do. And then you have your mass airflow sensor, and then you have the flutter valve and the N75, which I'm deleting the flutter, reverse, and starter wire. And then from there you have two grounds here. This brown and white off of your 14 pin goes to ground. Obviously these two loop. Let's see. The green gets a 10 amp. The green and black here gets a 10 amp switched on power. And what is that? Oh, and then this is your main power, I believe, for your ECU. So that's a 30 amp switched on power. Hi Marley, how are you? This is baby Marley. She's a crazy kitty. Alright, so after hours and hours of redeciphering this wiring and everything, I have it laid out in a giant bundle. So we've got our positive cable hooked up to here. I have it tied into, for the time being, our relay bank here. Actually, it's not a relay bank. Let me rephrase that. They're kind of fuses. I don't know why I'm brain farting that thing. And I have that run to your main 12 volt power that runs basically your ECU and everything. And then right here's all your other stuff. I have another wire rundown, and it's piggybacked to each of these fuses. And you've got your 130 amp that runs this guy, a 10 that runs that, a 10 that runs that, a 10 that runs this, which is power for your pedal, and then a 10 that runs this little guy. And then I have all the grounds connected together. Obviously you have your ground, which I don't have everything. I need to run a 12 volt to that and connect the K line, and that's your diagnostics hookup. And we've got all our grounds tied in together, and I have those tied in here to our ground. And that is literally it. That is all the wiring. There's 8 or 10 connections here, and that is all. Got our pedal here, fuel line hooked up. Obviously nothing's complete here. I've kind of just got it all together. Obviously just wide open everywhere. Got oil in it. Let's see if this thing pops off. That was a lot of work. I've never done anything like that. I'm really skeptical of it, but let's find out and see what happens. All right, and right here we have our starter wire. Let's see what happens. Oh, our relay's clicking open for our fuel, which tells me we have power through our ECU. You guys have no idea how incredibly, I don't even know how that worked, but it did. Alright.
But I just gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Alright, so you take
this right here. Okay. Hold it right there.
Okay.
Put it right on that. Put it on there for just a second. Good job.
Daddy, you wanna try?
All right, so I was kind of at a loss for words. I cannot believe that thing ran. I was really hoping it would, and it's just awesome that it did. That was a huge undertaking with, I mean, that pile of wires, and that was a fraction of what was in that car that I pulled out, and we stripped completely down and got to where we are here. And I cannot believe that everything's working. Obviously, there's a few things we'll have to button up. I've got a wire in the N75 and everything, so we have that actuation with the turbo. We did go ahead and delete the mass airflow sensor. That was something I was in between, and talking to Malone, the tuning company, they said go ahead and delete it. It won't interfere with further tuning as we build this thing up. So at this point we are stage 3. I've got to get some 270, I think it's 271 injectors is what we're going to be putting in this. And then that's as far as, other than maybe doing a clutch, that stage 3 is going to be for the time being. Everything else is in that computer. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm extremely excited and pleased that this thing runs. And now it's just a matter of getting all the parts in, getting everything buttoned up, and getting ready to take this thing for a spin. All right, with that engine fired up, it's time to go ahead and get that race pipe installed. Now this basically just gets rid of the rest of your EGR stuff and that flutter valve, which it can use. This kind of is a good preventative if you have a runaway engine or anything, but with a good running, well-maintained engine, you shouldn't have that issue. Now, it's always a possibility. Be prepared to get out there, cut a boot open, and crimp it off if something were to happen. And so that really gets away from all this, what this actually does. And what's crazy is this one's actually really clean. You can actually see straight through that one. Whenever you do this, go ahead and be prepared to pull your intake off. You can see all that crud. I've actually had these similar miles that I've actually pulled apart, and you'll have a hole about that big where you can see through it. So full of stuff. And with the EGR and this flutter valve on there, you see it's completely blocked off. That actually cruds all this stuff up really bad. So this will keep your intake a lot cleaner and allow you to breathe a lot more. I mean, even like it is here, if I were to just stick it on there, we'd have at least a 30% restriction as far as your intake goes. But I've had them still running good with nearly a 50 to 75% restriction in that intake. But let's go ahead and take the time to get this intake really clean so we can get it on there and have nice flow. Alright, so I've allowed the intake to sit here in some old diesel for the evening. And this thing is still just, oh my goodness, gross as can be. Alright, so just got my little chisel here. Hey! That's some nasty stuff. And this one's really good compared to all the other ones I've done. This one obviously has been pulled off in the past and cleaned up. Alright, so I went and jacked a baby bottle brush. I had a wheel brush for this, but I can't find it. This works good too though. And they're only like $6 or $7. What a mess. Alright, after another couple hours of cleaning and blowing this thing out, it's pretty gross. Golly. It's a whole lot better than it was, but it's... Okay, it'll suck all that in. Not perfect, but it's a whole lot better than it was. Now we can put our little race pipe on here. You got your O-ring. And that guy goes like so. mess. This stuff makes an absolute mess. It gets everywhere. And it smears. That's what's bad. All right, and then you've got this little drilled and tapped out port, which you can put a plug in, or you can put a boost gauge nipple on. All right, we've got our intake ready to go. We can go ahead and slap it back on in here. There's so much more room in this than in the Mark IV. Makes this engine bay feel huge. All right, we'll set our torque. All right. Alright y'all, that'll wrap it up for this episode. The biggest thing I wanted to do is to verify this thing would run with the work that I've already done so far, and now we can go ahead and I've actually today already ordered the clutch components, the shifter components, some of the cooling systems, so we can go ahead in the next few weeks, get this thing completely put together and take it for a spin. Now, y'all say I don't finish projects, and I don't. I have a lot of stuff that's incomplete. Well, here's one we're gonna finally get done. I am so stinking excited to take this thing out, run it around, and have some fun with it. And I can't wait to get it together. Hope y'all enjoyed that. If you wanna see more builds like this car, the 911, some other Will It Runs that we have coming, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Peace out. Catch y'all on the flip side.